We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Life and contradictions. Life is full of contradictions, but we consider contradictions bad. They are not bad. Instead, contradictions create a balance between the pairs of opposites. And life is a balance between pair of opposites or contradictions, as you know. Look at the magnetic poles, both north and south pole repulse one another, attract one another, and thus maintain the inner balance. One of the basic sutras of Lao Tse is that life is based upon the rules of opposites. Life does not oppose its contradictions. Instead, it works in collaboration with its counterforces. Ordinarily, it appears that if your enemy dies, you will be a happier person. But do you know that with the death of the enemy, something within you, which existed entirely on account of the enemy, also dies? This is natural. Therefore, it happens many a time that you lose much more by the death of an enemy than by the death of a friend or the loving one. The opposition of the enemy awakens the challenge within you. The opposite circumstances and situations awaken the challenge within you, and the mutual hostility gives rise to the nourishment. It nourishes those qualities within you which would have otherwise remained dormant. That is why Lao Tse said, "Any friend will do, but choose your enemies wisely." Choose your enemies wisely. Friends do not influence our lives as much as enemies do, because a friend can be disregarded, but we cannot afford to neglect an enemy. We can forget a friend, but enemy is never forgotten. That's why the unfavorable circumstances, moments keep on surfacing again and again. It never dawns on us, however, that an enemy can influence our life so much. Mahatma Gandhi would never become a Mahatma had it not been for the British. It was the opposition of the British rule that brought him into being. Great men are born when a country is in a great upheaval or turmoil. It is the calamity that causes great men to be born, not vice versa happens. The hour of calamity and the hour of tension produces great men. It is in difficult times that your hidden splendor surfaces. Hitler has written somewhere, "No leader is born without a great conflict." Therefore, the greater the leader, greater should be the battle. greater the leader, the greater should be the battle. You cannot name a single leader who was born in times of peace. So, he who desires to be a great leader has to make arrangements for a great conflict. Life works on the law of opposites, where the contradiction is visible and the collaboration on which it actually works, it is not. Let us examine this from a different aspect in order to understand it better. If we were to remove Ravan, the demonic character from the epic Ramayana, nothing would remain of the epic except Ram, and with him alone it would not be possible to construct the narrative. Ram could have existed on this earth without Ravan, but then the Ram of the epic would have been completely lost. It is the very challenge of the opposition to Ravan that brings out the resilience and temperance of Ram's character and reveals the brilliance of his personality, brilliance of his being. Ravan made a great contribution towards the exaltation of Ram. It would have not been possible for either Ram or Ravan to be born without each other. The contradictions are essential. They grow with each other's support. Ravan has to do penances in order to overcome or for the victory over Ram, and Ram did the same thing. This is the truth. But those who view these things superficially see them to be enemies opposed to one another. But it is never so. The profound reality of life is, however, that they are partners. They are partners. It is necessary that they themselves should be aware of this, but on the very subtle plane, these seemingly opposites are partners, co-sharers, collaborators and friends, not on the surface. Deep down, just as the two opposite poles of the magnet, north and the south, seems to be located in different places and repulse one another. If you bring the north pole of another magnet next to that of the first one, it will repulse. But somewhere or the other, if you look at the two poles, they attract one another, they support one another, and the magnet will be of no utility if there was only one pole, not the opposite. Not only is life not formed without the opposites, but it does not develop without the opposites as well. The opposition is inevitable. Sigmund Freud has discovered a priceless truth. He says, we also hate those whom we love. Love and hate goes together. This was a startling discovery even for Sigmund himself. It was a terrible blow for all mankind, specifically for lovers. Lovers cannot believe that they are capable of hatred towards those whom they love so dearly. The fact is, however, that all lovers know this within themselves, though they may not admit it. Therefore, Freud was resisted for a long time. Ultimately, he could not be proven wrong. Gradually, the truth was accepted. Those whom we love, certainly we also despise. For love cannot stand without hatred. Love cannot stand without hatred. If you love someone and you analyze it honestly, you will find yourself loving and hating alternately. You hate in the morning, love in the afternoon, hate in the evening, and again love at night. That's how it goes on. Your love is periodical, and the one you quarreled with in the morning and decided it was impossible to live with, you again reconcile with and swear you would be lost without that person. The ancient prophets of love have declared that love is complete and perfect only when there is no strife between the lover and the beloved. Freud, however, said that the greater the love, greater this strife between the lovers, and it is essential. If there is no strife between the lovers, according to Freud, they are not in love really. And in fact, they are just fooling themselves. The opposites are very important. If you do not fight with your husband or wife, it means your relationship has vanished long ago. So much so that there is no need for a strife anymore. Freud is not talking about the spiritual love. He is talking about love that which passes for love in our society. What we generally know as love, that is what Freud is talking about. In this so-called love that we know, strife is an inevitable part. But lovers and married couples want there to be no strife, no conflict in their relationship. Then love would be bliss. But they are not aware of the fact, the dialectics of life. The day strife ends, love will end as well. In fact, conflict cannot be ended by the sort of love we indulge in. Conflict exists because of expectations, great expectations. Greater the love, the more will be the expectations. Greater the expectations, greater will be frustration as well. And when there is frustration, there is conflict. If there is no expectation or no demand on the lover, or no more hopes pinned on the other, all conflicts will stop immediately. Then we accept life as it is. But Freud says great lovers cannot live in peace. Another unique personality of the West, De Sade, has said, love is an illness. He calls love an illness because we invite love and hatred is there instead. Love and hatred are two sides of the same coin. Therefore, hatred will go on the side by side with love. Hatred cannot stand on its own. If you think you have hatred towards someone, you are mistaken because of the simple fact that hatred cannot exist alone. You can hate only that person whom you still have some measure of love. If you try and analyze your feelings about someone you really hate, you will find some strings of love that unknowingly tie you to him or to her. If all ties of love are broken, all means of hatred have also vanished. Therefore, we are tied to both our friends and our foes. For the friends, there is love outside and hate within, and for the foe, there is hate without and love within. Our ties with both are, however, the same. It may be difficult to understand because we have great expectations for love. Let us try to understand this from different angles. A man toils all day long. Now, according to our reasoning, a man who has toiled throughout the day could find it impossible to relax at night. He who is used to working all day should pass his nights also in work. The fact is, however, that he who toils throughout the day sleeps profoundly at nights. The man who does not exert himself throughout the day should find no difficulty in relaxing at night because his experience of relaxing throughout the day should be good practice for sleep at night. But a person who relaxes in the day finds it difficult to sleep at night. Actually, he who toils all day long accumulates the opposite aspect, relaxation. He who relaxes accumulates the opposite of relaxation. So he who relaxes in the day toils at night by changing sides time and again. He cannot sleep. It is always advised not to sleep long during the day, otherwise you cannot fall asleep in the night. We cannot escape the opposites. The opposite is always standing by. If you wish to sleep at nights, you will have to exert yourself. In the day, greater the exertion, the deeper will be the sleep in the night, and it will be natural. One pole creates the need for the other. So a very interesting thing happens. Those who work very hard and have no time for relaxation attain the height of relaxation, and those who have all the means to relax, to them relaxation becomes difficult. Do what they may, they cannot relax at all. Unfortunately, we live by our superficial standards. By our superficial standards, we say we must relax in the day in order to know how to relax at night. This is a straight and simple logic, but it has nothing to do with life. This is just the same as saying we should not have any conflict with those whom we love. But life exists in pairs, in opposites. Just like electricity exists because of its negative and positive poles, when they neutralize one another, illumination happens. And there can be no electricity if the opposites are not there. But it is very difficult to accept the opposites. He who accepts the opposite is indeed on the spiritual path. He who accepts the presence of the opposites is indeed on the spiritual path. Lao Tse calls such a person wise. To accept the opposite means that if today you have come and paid respect to me, I should accept the fact that at some level within you, disrespect is also gathering towards me. This fact cannot be escaped or ignored. If I accept your respect, I should also be prepared to receive disrespect from your hands at a later date. If I accept your obeisance with full knowledge of the fact, your reverence will give me no pleasure. Similarly, your disrespect will not make me unhappy either. Deep within your reverence, I shall spy the seed of irreverence, and deep within your irreverence, I shall see the spark of reverence. If a man hurls a shoe at me or abuses, why should he take so much trouble if he is not concerned with me? Surely there is some connection between him and me somewhere. The shoe he throws at me is so much more expressive than the garland that another person puts around my neck. This man's leaning towards me is great, and so is his restlessness. He is bound to do something or the other for me. If I become aware of the trouble he is taking for me, the prick of his disrespect will not hurt me. That is what happened to Buddha. When the man came and he spit on him, he accepted it. And if I become aware of the other side of the coin, when I am honored and respected, the illusion of reverence will vanish. Then both respect and disrespect will appear as two sides of the same coin, meaningless. And in that understanding, you go beyond the duality and the opposites. He to whom this becomes clear transcends both sides. Krishna says, Sitoshan samdukkha, one who is equipoised amidst the duality, the opposites, heat and cold. He uses the word sheath, winter, ocean, summer. Life is bound by opposites from all directions. When we see one side of life, we forget the other. It is this fundamental error that is the greatest misfortune of the mankind. When we are looking at one aspect of life, we become completely oblivious of the other. Without looking the two sides and remaining unconcerned of the two, you cannot attain to transcendence. When we look at the flower, we never glance at the thorns. When we look at the thorns, we miss flowers. And flower and thorn grow on the same tree, the same branch, get their nourishment from the same source. They are fed by the same channel. They are alive because of the same root. The same gardener waters them, and the same sun sends its rays towards them. They come from the same existence. Deep within they are one. But when we look at the flower, we forget the very existence of the thorn. And the more we forget the thorn, the sharper will be its prick. Then when thorn pricks, the flower vanishes from our vision. And we are only aware of the pain of the thorn. We even forget that it was because of the flower that we are, that we had to suffer the prick of the thorn. We enjoyed the aroma of the flower, and the prick of the thorn was the result. Our vision is always partial. Partial vision is nothing else but ignorance. Partial vision is not wrong, but it is not complete. It sees only one half of the reality. The other half seems to be so contradictory that we cannot relate the one to the other. We cannot relate each other. On the face of it, it is difficult to relate to the opposites. You can never imagine that a person who clings to your neck today and vows that you are all that means anything to him in world and life would be meaningless without you, would push a knife into you. Logic needs consistency, but life is not logic. But in life there is no consistency. How can this very person kill you? But the reality of life is that he can. This is the very depth of life. He who has no relationship with you does not bother to kill you. He is not interested in you. Can you make someone an enemy without first making him your friend? It is not possible. Also, one who becomes your sole enemy could have just been a slight acquaintance. The proportion is equal. The greater is the friendship, the greater will be the enmity. In the book The Prince, Machiavelli has written, the greater the intimacy, the more caution you should be of your friend. This is the cunning advice, but has some truth in it. The thicker the friendship, the more vigilant we should be because the danger is greater. Machiavelli says that if you do not want your enemies to know the fact, take care that your friends do not know them. He has also said, do not treat your enemy in a way that you may regret one day when he becomes your friend. Because an enemy can become a friend any day. Life undergoes changes every moment. Nothing is stagnant or stable. Nothing. Life swings from one extreme to the other. The opposites are united in the profound depth of the existence. However, on the surface, they are far apart. He who sees only the surface of life cannot understand Lao Tse because he talks of the ultimate polarity. The ultimate polarity of the existence. Lao Tse represents the profundity of life. He who sees only the surface of life cannot understand Lao Tse because Lao Tse talks of the ultimate polarity of life, the union, the oneness of the opposites. They may seem contradictory, opposing to one another, but deep down they are one. They support one another. Just as the north and the south pole of the magnet, the bar magnet, supports the two poles. One supports the other. And that is why it is called the magnet. Because the two poles, north and south, are in harmony with one another. Lao Tse represents the profundity of life. Understand this. Live the profundity of life. Live the profundity of life. Only this much for this morning. Until tomorrow, take care and do have a pleasant day.